Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. Today we're going to be doing a Goosebumps episode review, and of course, I recently reviewed the original first, technically two episodes, but it's one big two-part thing. The first TV show episode adaptation of any book from R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series called The Haunted Mask. And I loved it so much. It was fantastic. I raved about it in my review, about how much I loved this and had forgotten how great it was. I have my VHS copy that I bought recently. And then, of course, there was a sequel that was called Haunted Mask 2. It was book number 36 out of the original 62-book classic series. Here is the original cover. Again, I just recently bought this. I did not own the original one at all when I was a kid. I never read it, as far as I know. Really amazing book. Here is the copy that's a reissue copy that I recently read and absolutely adored. Haunted Mask 2 is one of the best of the original classic series, and I still stand by that, as is the original first Haunted Mask book from that adaptation I just showed you on VHS. And when I was growing up, of course I had rented it a couple of times, the TV episode adaptation from October 29th, 1996. It was a two-parter, by the way. I had a DVD copy as well that I watched constantly. I used to watch this every single Halloween, and I got to the point I just stopped. I don't know why. I just didn't keep watching it every single Halloween. But I watched it tonight, and I actually didn't just watch it on this. I watched it on the VHS copy that I recently got as well. And this is really fun. I love VHS tapes, and I love Goosebumps VHS tapes because they have so many ads from the old Goosebumps days and all the things I remember. But I don't think I ever saw this on VHS. I think I just saw it on DVD. But I'm glad I recently bought this as well in a big pack of VHS from Goosebumps. Man, Haunted Mask 2 is good. I forgot how great this is as a TV episode. As much as I love the book and raved about the book recently. This TV episode, adaptation, whatever you'd like to call it, two-parter, anything, it is so good. It is so freaking good. To my knowledge, every person from the first episode two-parter thing of the original Haunted Mask, this particular one right here, every single person came back for the new one. For Haunted Mask 2, I guess. Not new per se, but they came back for the sequel. And that was awesome. I thought that was really cool because, of course, like Say Cheese and Die, when they did the two-part, well, it wasn't really a two-parter, but they did the first one and then they did a part two type thing later on down the road. Ryan Gosling was not brought back to do that. And for this to premiere 2 days before Halloween at the time is really awesome. I would have been about 2 years old, minus a week, you know. So I was born a week after Halloween. This is such a great episode. Great two-parter, anything like that. The TV show of Goosebumps is not perfect. It's very cheesy, very silly, very goofy. But there are the big highlights like things like this. Haunted Mask 1, Haunted Mask 2, Night of the Living Dummy 3. And of course, one of the big things I was surprised about with Haunted Mask 1, that two-parter had been directed by Timothy Bond, who directed Night of the Living Dummy 3, Part 1 and Part 2, which is possibly my favorite of all the Goosebumps stuff I've ever watched on the TV show. Probably my most nostalgic, for sure. I'm very nostalgic about this one as well. It turns out Haunted Mask 2 is not directed by Timothy Bond, which kind of surprised me as well. But whoever did it here paid a lot of respect to what Timothy Bond had done with the first Haunted Mask two-parter thing. I really, really appreciate it. I really had a really good episode, a really good time, watching it, this particular episode. I had a blast watching it. It was just fun. And once again, this particular episode, people might prefer the first. I don't know which one you possibly, as the viewer, prefer. Haunted Mask 2 does just as good of a job as the first episode two-parter thing of capturing the feeling of fall and the feeling of Halloween and the feeling of specifically Halloween night and what it's like to be a kid at that time of the year. I would say possibly Haunted Mask 2 possibly encapsulates that even better than Haunted Mask 1 did. Of course, Haunted Mask 1 is mostly about a girl who is named Carly Beth, of course. She's terrified of absolutely everything, and she gets this great, terrifying power from this mask that she finds and basically steals. And it changes her in a lot of ways. It was fantastic, very symbolic, very beautiful. And this particular episode is based off of one of the bullies that kind of, was mean to her in the first episode or first book or anything that you happen to be observing of Goosebumps. Steve. Steve is our main character in this particular episode, once again acted by the same young man, as far as I know, of the first episode adaptation thing from Timothy Bond. And In this particular one, this is a case of a bad kid getting his hands on a mask that's very much like the mask Carly Beth had her hands on that changed her so much. This one doesn't change him to make him worse. This one changes him to make him health-wise worse. He actually finds an old man mask inside of the abandoned, now, almost a year later from the first episode's timeline story, whatever, the old party store that Carly Beth happened to steal the mask from in the first episode thing. In this two-parter, Steve and Chuck, the other bully, happen to find the party store on their own, and they just so happen to go inside, at least Steve does, and he goes downstairs and he finds a creepy old man mask. And the old man mask slowly, when Steve puts it on and gets more exposed to it, of course, the timeline of these two episodes, of the Haunted Mask TV episode collection, whatever, is not the same as it is in the books, as far as I know. If you put the mask on 3 times in the episodes, then it gets stuck to you. If you put it on once or twice, it's not. As far as I know from the books, from what I could tell from the books, I'm pretty sure if you put it on once, it starts trying to bond to you. It depends on how long you wear it, right? It's what I think. I think that's what was explained in the books. I could be missing something, but I don't think I am. But anyway, Steve finds this creepy old man mask, puts it on a few times, it gets stuck to him and starts bonding with his skin, very much in the same reminiscent fashion of what happened to Carly Beth. However, her mask, by the power of Halloween is what it actually says, comes out of the grave that she had dug for it and buried it in the original Haunted Mask episodes in the cemetery, where she scared Chuck and Steve so bad. Her mask somehow rises up out of the ground from the power of Halloween, as it claims, which is very Halloween-y, by the way, and I think it's pretty interesting to even have that set in here. I thought it was pretty cool. The mask gets out and it goes and finds the store owner who used to own the abandoned store, and it actually molds onto his face now and takes over his body and everything and kind of runs everything dressed up in his weird-looking tuxedo with the red tie and everything. You know, the very Vincent Price-looking guy that owned the store. And now he has the mask that Carly Beth had worn. And the mask wants revenge. And it's actually the voice they picked for the guy doing the voice. Not so much the guy that's acting, but the guy who did the voice for the Haunted Mask possessing this man was terrifying. And it was awesome, and I loved it. And it sometimes even sounds like Tom Kenny, who plays SpongeBob. And it's not him. I looked into it on IMDb. As far as I can tell, it's not Tom Kenny. But it kind of surprised me. If you listen close, it sounds like SpongeBob sometimes, depending on how he says certain things. At least it sounds like Tom Kenny, which in real life, Tom Kenny sounds more like, which one of the SpongeBob characters does he sound the most like? Probably the Flying Dutchman, I would say, possibly. You know, the guy that says Davy Jones' Locker, the ghost guy. Pretty sure Tom Kenny sounds mostly like that guy. I know he does the voice for both. I mean, you can tell, but still. But the voice for the Haunted Mask possessed old man guy is great. The Haunted Mask that's possessing Steve, it's basically they took Steve's voice and kind of modified it to make it deeper and raspier. And I love the stuff they do with the makeup on the mask for this one. I think it's so unnervingly uncomfortable and creepy. One of the best things about this particular episode involving this particular mask on Steve's particular face is that as he gets tired and stuff, because this is an old man mask, it starts making him feel a little crippled. He starts slowing down a whole lot. He has back pain. He has to walk with a cane at one point, which is basically just a giant stick he found out in the woods. When he has to use all of those things to try to help him out and try to cope with all these health issues that he has, according to the Carly Beth Haunted Mask, that's kind of telling his mask how weak or strong it may be, because it commands over top of him, apparently. Basically, Steve is like starting to sweat and stuff because of all the exertion he's having to go through by moving around so much and trying to run and stuff like a young kid would. But with the old mask kind of possessing him, it kind of slows him down and degrades his body and stuff like an old person's body does. And the mask gets really sweaty and really gross and really wet. It has spiders crawling in the hair, which we know from the book itself, and of course in the TV episode we have those. Sometimes they're live spiders, sometimes they're just little decorative type spiders in the hair. But the sweating gets to me so bad. The idea of spiders in your hair gets to me too. And there's one particular part of the episode where there's spiders somewhere else in Steve, and it's pretty horrific as well. But the sweating thing, you know, it gets to me really bad. I don't know how to explain it, but the way that there's a mixture of that and how Steve is having such a hard time trying to catch his breath. There's one particular moment where he screams out loud, "I can't catch my breath," and he just falls over and collapses, basically. And it gets to me every time that I watch this episode. And I won't spoil anything else for you because I don't want to ruin too much for you for this particular episode. But it's so well made and it's so well lit and the houses are so well decorated and everything. I love the way it feels like fall and like October and Halloween and all of these things. If you love that kind of stuff, if you love the first Haunted Mask or either of the books, Haunted Mask 1, 2, or the third one, Screams of the Haunted Mask from the Horrorland series, if you happen to like that the most, or if you're like myself and think Goosebumps Wanted the Haunted Mask is the best from the Most Wanted series, whichever one, I think if you like any of those at all, you'll love this TV episode as well, just as much as the first one. But I honestly would recommend it this way. Even if you have not read the books, I would so much recommend on Halloween night, or maybe the day before Halloween or the week of Halloween when it feels the most Halloween-y, I would recommend watching the two episodes, the two-parters, which is really 4 episodes of the show, which is about 40 minutes apiece, so about an hour and a half. I would recommend watching them back to back, especially if you grew up on the show and you loved it so much back in the day and you don't remember much about these. Watch them back to back. They're still creepy, they're still fun, and they're going to make you very nostalgic for the 90s, I would say. They're powerful stuff, man. They're really, really well made, especially the first one with Timothy Bond behind it. The first one, I think, feels more cinematic than the second one does, but they're still great. I love them to death, and I could not recommend Haunted Mask 2 enough to you. It is so good and so fun, and so, once again, I'm going to hold up my DVD copy, scary at times, too. You know, honestly, I mean, I said that about the first Haunted Mask episode, two-parter thing. This was really great. This is really, really great, and I couldn't recommend it enough to you if you haven't checked it out before, guys. I watched it at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I've had a blast watching it tonight. Anyway, I would like to make this a tradition every single year for my Halloween time. Just whether I do anything on the channel or not, it's irrelevant, but if I like watch these two-parters, 4-parters, whatever, every single year for Halloween time, just as a new tradition just for me, or just for me and my fiance if she wants to do it, or if I ever have kids, same thing there. But also reading the books. I love the Haunted Mask books. They feel so much like Halloween. They're the best of Goosebumps Halloween time stuff. But anyway, when it comes to the Haunted Mask 2 TV episode, adaptation, whatever, if I had to rate this on a 5-star basis, yeah, I know a lot of people would say this is not as good as the first Haunted Mask TV adaptation things. Some people would say the book is not as good as the first book. Frankly, I love Haunted Mask 2. I actually think currently that the TV episode's better than the book itself. As much as I love Haunted Mask 2 and I recently read it for the first time, as far as I know, the ending scared the crap out of me. I think the novel has one of the creepiest Goosebumps endings, one of the scariest horror endings ever. It's just unnerving the way it goes. I won't spoil it for you or anything, but still, I think I like the TV episode better. I think it has a better, more heartwarming finale, a better finale for Steve as a main character, for Carly Beth as a character that we loved. Even Sabrina and Chuck, I think, are more well-rounded by the time this episode ends. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I'd give it a 5 out of 5, just like I did for the first Haunted Mask episode. I love it. I have a nostalgic place for it, having the DVD copy. The DVD copy is one of the first DVDs I ever owned. One of the first DVDs I ever owned was Daddy Daycare and I think the first Spider-Man movie with Sam Raimi directing. And I think not too long after that was when I had the roller skating rink birthday party that I talk about all the time. Was one of the first places where I ever got any Goosebumps stuff. Pretty confident that birthday party is where I got my Haunted Mask 2 DVD. I could be wrong, but it might be. But it was a great time, man. 90s kids had the blast. We all had such a good time growing up in that era. It was before technology became so important in everybody's life. You know, it was a time before everything got too crazy in politics or anything like that. It was a wonderful time, and I'm so thankful that I grew up in the 90s. For the most part. I was born in 94, so it's about halfway through, but, you know, still. Anyway, Haunted Mask 2, guys, what are your thoughts on it? Put your thoughts in comments down below. Do you like the book more? Do you like the TV episode more? Do you like Haunted Mask 2 more than Haunted Mask 1, whether it be by the book or the TV or anything like that? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear everything you have to say about my review and all of that down in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching so much, guys. Again, 5 out of 5 stars for me. I love this TV episode. I love the first one too, but I love this one as well. And a lot of people don't feel like that, apparently. From what I can tell, at least. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Anyway, may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and happy Halloween. Please be careful. You know, please be careful going out trick-or-treating and stuff if you happen to still do that. Or if you have kids, please keep an eye on them. Hold their hands. Put some glow sticks or something around their wrists so you know where they're at all times. Make them hold a flashlight or something. Be careful, because it's a scary world right now. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you, and goodbye.